powerful, stoic, strong. What would our world look like if we ditched tired roadmap of masculinity? Hi, I'm Will. I've been working in secondary schools for over a decade now, and I've long been interested in the way that we conceptualize gender, particularly for our young men. The masculine roadmap. Self-worth, built on a narrow idea of success, competition, and dominance, is a generational legacy. It limits men. It tells them who they need to be and what they need to do for their lives to be of value. That is changing, but slowly. And old values persist, despite many struggling to live up to them. For me, that's a personal story too. As kids, I was bullied for not being very sporty. I grew up gay in some pretty challenging, hostile, single-sex environments. And I had struggles with my mental health, meaning that while I had to challenge some of the preconceptions I had, that didn't come till it was too late. And I think that's the case for many men out there. Through that, what I've learned is this. We need to recalibrate what men want men to be, and that it is achievable if we work on our connectedness free from the standards we have been set. Now, I'm not trying to say that I have all of the answers to how we get there, nor do I want to cut women out of that conversation. I think working with men is vital for improving the lives of everyone, regardless of their gender. What I can talk about is the work that I've done in my school in response to the reported rise of misogynistic, homophobic, and transphobic behaviours fueled by misogynistic influences. In the work that I've done, what I didn't want to do was look at boys as a problem and ignore the problems boys face. What I wanted to do was re-enfranchise young men so that they could be the people their community needed them to be. To achieve this, I worked with a fantastic group of student leaders, young men who are truly inspirational, and along with the help of a theatre company called VoiceBox, who specialise in promoting healthy masculinity. Together, we examined the context of young men's lives, unpacked some of the challenges that they face, and together created some social action projects to work with those. We created podcasts, a student-led healthy communication workshop, safe spaces for young people to connect and engage, and a sports leadership programme promoting healthy attitudes. Through that, we are driving cultural change. One influence on my thinking for this has been Niobe Wade, Professor of Applied Psychology at New York University. Through her TED Talk and in her research, she charts the tragic trajectory of many young men's graduation into manhood as they prune away their innate relational intelligence at the expense of their mental health, their well-being, and their authenticity. Through extensive interviews, she captures the isolated worlds that boys enter into as they learn that showing affection is a weakness and that love for your friends is a violation of man code. In a nutshell, what she suggests is that too many young men feel isolated, angry, and maladjusted because they lack the proper role models and relationships with their peers that would require them to flourish. In our group, we discussed this and tried to work out how it manifests in their lives and in the world around them. We discussed the troubling figures for men in mental health crisis. We discussed the choices men make about their well-being. We discussed how success criteria can put pressure on men that makes them deny their needs at the expense of those around them. What was interesting is that many of these young men were particularly keen on sports. Ironically, I think that we see a lack of connection at times in sports, despite it being the area where many men get their sense of community. If we take for a moment our national sport, football, where the culture of the elite end of the men's game filters down to create a hyper-competitive environment that young boys emulate. Win as a prize, contest trumps camaraderie, strength is absolute. Gareth Southgate discussed this in his Dimbleby lecture earlier this year, telling one particular story when he was apprenticed at Crystal Palace. His coach pulled him aside, told him that he was a lovely man, that he would be delighted to have Southgate as his son, but he was fundamentally too weak to make it as a footballer. Now, Southgate's success has been well publicised. But that coach's thinking ripples through generations of men. Men who haven't interrogated the legacy that they've been passed, or the legacy they are passing to their sons and daughters. I've taken the title of this talk partly from work by artist Corbin Shaw. The words, "Soften up, hard lads," are emblazoned across an England flag, invoking the iconography of the artist's football culture in his hometown in Yorkshire. His wordplay tells us so much about the conventions that are applied to men. That one must harden up, must be a proper man. What he also tells us is the solution. What to do in a world where old male values no longer serve anyone. But we must soften, must open up our communication channels and cultivate vulnerability. If I was to think of the best men I know in my life, it's not their qualities of power or rigidity or their successes that makes me love them. It is their unrelenting tenderness, their caring, their kindness that makes them great men. If I think about that fantastic group of young people that I am working with, I can see that for them, they have had people who value their authenticity over their ability to assimilate. That is what we need for all young men. That is what I want for the new masculine roadmap. We need to train young men to open up and not close down. We need to train young men to talk about the big stuff. And we need to train young men to be there for each other. Ultimately, we need better connection. Thank you.